When you are learning Scratch for yourself or learning it with your students, it's fun to explore the featured projects and featured studios to see what people are doing and then look inside to see how they are doing. But you can also search for projects to look at and also search for projects that align with the curriculum, projects that are related to social studies, science, art, and music. The way to do this in Scratch is to click the Explore link, get the Explore page. You can search for individual projects or you can search for studios, which are collections of projects. You can also search through all animations, art, games, music, stories, and tutorials. You can filter for trending, popular, and recent. You can also search for a search term. We're going to search first through one of the standard searches here, and I'm going to click on art. I'm going to delete in projects. When you do your searching, feel free to look at studios and look at collections of projects based on a search term. I'm going to change from trending to recent. And you can see the list changes a little bit. And then I'm going to go to popular. And again, another change in what you see. I'm going to bring up the waterfall art. Just to show it briefly. Depending on how complicated the project is and how good of a network you're on, it sometimes takes a while to load in. It's always nice to find projects that have good directions on it and tell a little bit about how they were made. And of course, when you look at these projects, if you like them, you can always click on the heart or the star. And you can also give feedback to it too. Another thing you might look at when you look at these are remixes that people have made of the projects. And we'll do more with remixes later on in the course. I'm going to click the green flag to show this. And it's a time-lapse animation. What's animated is the sun and the time frame, the clouds, and then the moon coming out. I'm going to click stop. And I'm going to click on see inside so you can see what scripts were used, what sprites were used. It appears that the sprite of the waterfall was probably created by this individual and possibly even the clouds. Sprite 1 is the sun, sprite 3 is the moon, and then there's a thumbnail, and then the backdrop is just a green backdrop. If you want to look at any of the scripts that are involved with it, you can see there's no scripts for sprite 1. If you click on the cloud, then it's showing that when it clicks, it's going to start moving, and it goes through a script for it, and each of these sprites has their script. Going to go back to the Explore page. And this time I'm going to do a search, but I'm going to type in the word addition. Several things come up. I'm going to take a look at the addition race. The directions are fairly simple. Click green flag to start. It's going to give me some math problems, and then I will just type in the math problem and hit enter. I'm going to do a few just to show you the process, and then we'll look inside. 14, 15, 9, 16, 11, I'm going to get this one wrong, 20, 24, oops, gotta hit enter, 18, 15, and 17, and 2. Okay, and he says, I win. You can also look at the remixes for this one, and you can see it's been, it's got a star of 165 on here for it. Let's look inside just briefly. This one is a little bit more complex. We have 2 sprites here. The sprite that is asking the questions or that you're answering the questions for has most of the scripts for it. The second one just is basically moving, and when it gets to a certain location, if it gets there first, it would say you lose. Sprite 2 is moving, and then we have kind of, it looks like a complicated script, but basically it's using random numbers, and it's joining to make a question of join random number A to random number B, and then answer. If the answer equals A plus B, then say yes for 1/4 of a second and move so many feet. And then if not, then -1 and say no for 25 seconds and move back a certain amount of steps. Now, I noticed when I was watching this, it seemed like the seconds for the response could have been longer for the yes or no, and that can easily be changed in a remix. You'll notice also that the maximum number is set to 10 initially, for 1 to 10 for the maximum number, and then when the yellow bunny gets a little bit farther, the maximum is set to 20. So this would be something to consider with your students. If you have 20 in there for the maximum for the second number, it could get a little complicated. But again, this is something that could be easily changed on a remix. So this is an example of an addition program that you might use with your students, or you might remix or have your students remix. There's one more type of search that I want to mention that you might consider doing. So I'm just going to come back to any page in Scratch and scroll down to the very bottom of the page. Under Scratch Family, there's something called Scratch Ed. This was a community from May 2009 until May 2019. It was an active community where educators could share resources, have discussions, share stories about Scratch. It's no longer active, but it's been archived. So you could do a search for resources on Scratch Ed. And the nice thing about doing a search here is, besides projects, you could find out information on teaching Scratch or lesson plans. So I am going to do a search, and I'm going to set it to most recent, and I'm going to search it, put it on elementary. I'm not going to do anything about content type, curricular area, but I am going to pick English. As you can see, there are a lot of resources in a lot of different languages. And we've got a Valentine's Scratch lesson that comes up, Scratch 3.0 side-scrolling effect, more mini tutorials. So feel free to go in and look at any of these resources. I'm just going to click on Scratch Resources, show you what you get when you look in here. You get a short description and then links to any files, projects. In this case, it's a link to Valentine's Scratch lesson, hearts and arrows. And that will take you to a website with a very detailed lesson, and this person also has more Scratch lessons at this resource. So a lot of times when you're on Scratch Ed and you're finding information, it can lead you to some other information. And you'll want to kind of bookmark some of this because you might use it later on in the course. So I'm going to go back to the main Scratch, and just want to tell you that sometimes in Scratch, when you're on the Explore search that we were using earlier, it can be a little frustrating looking at the resources by using search. And this is because when people save their Scratch project, they give it tags. And sometimes the tags that they use are very minimal, the search terms. And why you'll find things that you might realize. So when you are doing a Scratch project, you'll want to make sure that you use tags. This one doesn't show any tags under here for right now. So this is a little bit on searching with Scratch. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'd be glad to give you more information.